Attention turning right now back to the strength of the economy and the Fed's path for rate hikes after Friday's jobs report shocker. Employers added more than 500,000 jobs last month. That was more than double the expectation. To talk more about the report and the economy, I want to welcome Council of Economic Advisors member Heather Boushey. Good morning to you. We've been having a sort of a wild debate here on the set this morning about the impact of those jobs numbers on Friday and what the Fed should or should not do about it, what they will do about it, what the bond market is saying they are going to do about it. There's no question it's good news in many ways. The question is whether the White House should take credit for that, given the sort of cross currents of what's happened over the last 2 years.
Well, certainly I do believe that the president deserves a lot of credit for the strength of this economy. I mean, when he came into office, his #1 priority was to get the pandemic in check, get those vaccines out there, get the economy back on track, took big, bold steps to do that, got people back to work. And, you know, throughout the past couple of years, we've seen this economy be able to weather a series of crises thrown at it, different variants of the pandemic, different supply chain challenges as businesses struggled to get up and running after the pandemic had happened. And, of course, the unprovoked war in the Ukraine that has upended global energy prices. And yet we have been able to see this kind of strong, steady job growth and growth overall. And, you know, of course, we have seen that prices have been high, but those numbers have been trending downwards. And so I think this is the strength of the U.S. economy. This is what the president means when he says he's going to build an economy from the bottom up and middle out.
I know you probably can't tell us exactly what you think about this, but there's a huge question now about what the Federal Reserve is going to do. Jay Powell has been pretty public about his views that the employment picture is probably too strong in his mind. And therefore, the question is whether he's going to continue to raise interest rates and whether he should.
Well, as you know, Andrew, we can't comment on Fed policy, but you know what we do see in the data is that the signs of inflation pressures are easing. So in the latest data on prices, we've seen that the annual rate of inflation has been falling for the past 6 months. That's moving in the right direction. And on Friday's report on jobs, while we did see wages tick up, that pace again is slowing relative to the past 6 months. You're seeing a downward trend there, even as things are rising. So that means that you're not seeing pressure coming from the labor market, from wage gains on inflation at this point. So, you know, we're recovering from a global pandemic. And it's challenging. And you see these repeated, challenges with businesses, with their supply chains, with some overhiring that maybe have happened during the pandemic as businesses are trying to figure out where demand is going to come from next. And I think you see this economy working its way through that in a positive direction.
So, Heather, I guess a Goldilocks scenario would be where you stimulate the economy with demand side stuff. You know, we did spend a lot of money over the past couple of years, and you get these great job numbers. And if inflation truly were to be moderating, that would be the best of both worlds. I guess the criticism could come when you think about the average U.S. worker, and when inflation is running too hot, you wonder whether all that stimulus really was counterproductive. Do you think that you overdid it to some extent, or it's all sort of external?
Joe, I think it's so important to keep our eyes focused on what is important to American families and the American worker. And we know that seeing an unemployment rate of 3.4%, a low that we haven't seen since 1969, that is the core and the crux of economic security for the broad majority of American families who get the most of their income.